Good morning, you guys. It is Monday morning, and we got a nice windy day. I'm out with Matt here today, and I think you've been in the video before, right?
No.
No? First time?
First appearance.
Ah, first appearance. Crazy. Somehow I felt like we did one a while ago, but maybe not. So Matt's over from the UK, and he's doing some time building. So he's just working on his commercial in the UK and the ASA, and so he's working on time building right now, and we're out on a bit of an interesting day. So this morning it was pounding down rain. We're scheduled to have about 80 millimeters of rain today, but we're in this little lull at the moment right here where the rain is lightened off. Let me show you guys around. But we got this nice choppy wind, as you guys can probably tell from the cameras just bumping around here. But so yeah, down to the south, definitely lifted off the rain right now. It's not even raining at the moment, but some more off in the distance there. We're going to be flying around into all kinds of stuff. But anyways, yeah, so it's just bumpy at the moment. It's kind of a mix. Some places are like 5 knots of wind, some places are like gusting 18, 20 knots of wind. So a bit of mixed up. But we're going to go see what we can find today, see what the weather permits us to do. When he's time building, it's basically any experience he can get is good experience. So this is great. Get some turbulence, get some bad weather, get some good weather. You've flown in a lot of good weather,
yeah,
right?
I've been so lucky while I've been here. So.
Yeah, it's been pretty awesome. Yeah, this is the last few days. You go home on Thursday?
Tomorrow's my last day, yeah.
Tomorrow's your last day, yeah. So Wednesday.
Yeah,
crazy.
Wednesday.
Yeah, home Wednesday night. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. It's been good to have you, and we've had awesome weather. So
yeah, it's been amazing.
It's been good, yeah, pretty awesome. You built how many hours now?
I've almost done 40.
Almost done 40 in like 3 weeks.
3.5 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, 3.5 weeks, so it's been really good. But anyways, let's see what we can find today. Alright, so we found some rain now. And we're just out doing just some little circuits here, finding some different sandbars and beaches and stuff to be landing on. And it's crazy because the salmon run season is just over now, and all the fish are kind of dead in the river. And look at the amount, I don't know if you guys can see through the bubble here, but the amount of eagles down here is just absolute insanity. Gotta really watch out that you don't end up smoking into one of them. But there's just eagles everywhere. Wow, check out that tree right there. You see that? Must be 40 eagles right there in that tree. Oh man. Golden eagles, bald eagles. Amazing. Yeah, that's pretty nuts. Alright, let's loop it around and find a new spot to land. There they go. Yeah, this looks like a nice spot here. Nice work, that's a good landing. And then definitely a nice seating check there to make sure it's solid ground, because it's super wet out there, but yeah, that feels really awesome. Alright. Nice, let's go find a new spot. Somebody's out there fishing for dead fish. Oh, can't even focus on it. So much rain on the bubble. It's carnage out there right now. There's dead fish carcasses everywhere. Crazy. Makes it so hard to see through that rain, eh?
Yeah, it's much better than it was.
Yeah, that's for sure. Check this out. There's like 1,000 eagles right there. Whoa. That is so crazy. They all just flew out of the trees there.
Oh, there's another tree here. On the left.
Oh yeah, another one. Oh wow. Oh, you guys can't see, sorry. Too much rain. There's just, wow. It's amazing because like a bunch of years ago, I remember when I first started flying, eagles were endangered.
Really?
Yeah. And then, I don't know, there was a big push to try and conserve them, which is great, and now there's like,
Too many.
I don't know, too many, yeah, like a billion of them here. Like, it's amazing. People come here and they're like, man, I've never seen an eagle before. I'm like, well, just wait until fishing season. I mean, there's always eagles, but this time of year it's just like they all flock to the same spots. Amazing. Alright, so we're going to do a little more exploration up here. Probably not going to get very far up this valley, but just want to kind of talk over some of the threats and dangers of what we're seeing in front of us, and then how far you can go before you sort of have to call it and say, no, this is not going to work here. So one of the big dangers that we have in bad viz like this is stuff that we can't see. So like power lines would be a big one, right? And I mention it because there actually is a set of power lines in front of us. Not immediately, but it's coming up here in a little bit. So we have to really be kind of scanning, unless we know the area extremely well and we know that there's no wires in the area. That's like an extra threat that makes it very difficult to fly in these areas. Now, I'd say we're a little bit high for the viz that we have. There we go, it's getting a little better. So what we want to do when we get reduced viz like this is we want to kind of get down a little lower and get a little closer to the terrain. And if we go, like, especially if we're thinking about wires, if we go kind of into the middle of the valleys like that, that's going to be dangerous because that's where the cable spans will kind of be stretched across, right? But if we come up closer to the hillsides here, this is where we're going to have the towers sitting, and that's where obviously it could be the safest spot to be flying over, right? So just keeping our eyes peeled. There's across the way there, you can already see the first tower, so that's good. And we have to scan for the second tower that's on this side and make sure that we're going to be flying over that tower. So when we have reduced viz and we're flying low like we are now, when we go over a power pole, like a tower like this, we want to come over it at a 45 degree angle.
Okay.
And we want to come right over top of the power pole. You got one in there in front of you?
Yes.
Yes, there's one right there. That's perfect. So why don't we aim for that one? And then let's cross it over at a 45 degree angle. Now the reason you want to do that is because if you end up misjudging height or anything, you can always turn away still, right? Or if there was a second one that you didn't see or something, you can always turn away. So we're kind of coming straight at it right now. I'm going to come a bit more cross angle at it. And there is, you can see there is a second wire closer to us, but we can see on this side where the tower is, and on the other side as well, so that's good. Okay, so we're past those. Now I know that there's, because I've flown this valley many times, I know that there's no more, but we do want to keep our eyes peeled open. Now we have good viz in front of us here. When I say good viz, we can see we can see terrain right here, right? So we want to stay close, but not so close that we might miss something and hit, you know, like a snag or something. So I'd get a little higher here. Definitely got relatively poor viz there. And then as we want to go up this valley, again, we don't want to fly high over the middle of the valley. We want to stick to one side or the other. And sometimes we need to cross back and forth, depending on if the clouds are kind of hugging one side of the valley or the other. So right now you're doing pretty good here, hugging this side of the valley. And as you can see, not awesome viz, but not horrible either. It's actually right now, funny enough, it's the rain that's giving us the most amount of reduce. If like we can see probably 4 or 5 miles easily off in the distance there, which is great viz, but this rain is kind of reducing it to a point where we have to really be careful with what we're seeing immediately here in front of us. So we're going to just be cautious with that. And as you're flying along the hillside here, if you started to see that more clouds are building up on this side and it was more open on the other side, then we could cross over to the other side of the valley and follow that side. But right now, being here closer to the ground, I would say close being like within 200 to 300 feet of the ground, and not high out over the middle of the valley is going to be the safest option. Because what happens is, with the clouds, you get all of a sudden, you know, it looks okay, and then you get in front of a cloud, and then you lose all your viz, and now you have no terrain to follow to be able to turn around. This way, if we start to get reduced viz, we have lots of close terrain here that we can fly up to. We can slow it right down, even to a hover if we have to. We can turn the helicopter around with reference, and then we can fly back out of the valley. So this is looking pretty good. We're going to continue just a little further here. It's kind of starting to look grayed out in front of us.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have a reason to be here, just turn around and get out of here, right?
Yeah.
But if it's one of those situations like we all get into as helicopter pilots where, you know, you're doing a job and you really got to get through to where you're going and stuff, then it's, you know, it's good to go and check it out, but having a healthy fear of, you know, what's ahead and being very, very comfortable with the idea of, okay, we might need to turn around pretty soon here, right? So again, we're still staying pretty decent. Like, nothing's gotten worse. I can see again 4 or 5 miles there. So we're just going to continue on a bit further up here, and we'll just wait for this to sock in on us. Now, if it continues to stay this reasonable, like this good, then we're just going to continue on, you know. And obviously we'll be map reading and seeing how far of this we have to do. Like, for example, we're going up Chehalis River right here. So if this took us through to Harrison Lake, and we knew as soon as we get to Harrison Lake it's wide open and clear, you know, maybe low altitude and we can just buzz along the lake shore, then we might have a little bit more reason to want to try and get through here, right?
Yeah.
But if you knew it was going to be 2 hours of this kind of flying up and down through mountains, probably not very likely that you're going to make it through, and so you just turn around and just pack it in, right? But if you knew it's like, oh, it's 2 miles ahead. Now that being said, there's a big thread in that as well. So if you can see on the GPS and you can say, hey, you know what, I've only got another mile of this to go, let's try and push it through. I can see on the GPS it's just going to be, you know, this last little ridge. It can force you mentally to try and push through stuff that's not really acceptable to fly through. So you have to mentally be prepared to say, you know what, even though I know like right after this ridge it's going to be okay, I'm not willing to go risk my safety or anybody else's safety just to make it through there. So, but this is looking good for the moment. Wow, we got some pretty epic waterfalls and stuff down in that canyon. And some fresh logging there as well. That's interesting to note as well. If you have fresh logging, there's a chance for some cables and stuff on those hillsides. So just being aware of that. Deep, deep canyon down below us. Pretty amazing. Okay, so we're starting to see now, we're getting up to the end of where we saw earlier, and starting to see quite a bit of cloud on that hillside. The viz is being dramatically reduced there. We're going to have to cut across to this side of the valley. And as you can see, it's starting to force us kind of up the hillside, right? Like, we can definitely tell that if we wanted to get through, we'd probably have to climb. Let's climb a little bit and see what it looks like, because sometimes just a little bit of perception is everything. Ah, look at that. We just climbed a touch. Now we can see across to over there. Okay. I'd say we're okay for the moment. Let's head to that hillside. Let's see what that looks like. Again, I think that's probably going to be the end of it up there. I don't know that we're going to really get much further past that. Lovely rain. Alright. So yeah, now we're getting up in here and it's starting to kind of close in on us. We still have, you know, there's still reasonable viz above, like we can see the hilltops up there, but we just don't have any definitive reference past this area. Let's go just a little further. Alright. And then we always have to think now ahead and say, okay, well, if this is going to be our turnaround point, how are we going to make this turnaround? Like, how much are we going to slow down? Do we have enough room to kind of slow down and then turn around without climbing or like flying into cloud? So there's definitely plenty of room here to be able to do that. And so as we look over this way, you can actually see there's a lake there. That's partially maybe why it's a bit more cloudy over in that spot. But yeah, doesn't look, you could push it if you had to, but definitely not worth it for today. So let's go ahead and slow down a little bit. Nice right turn. We got lots of viz out the right there. And so this will be our turnaround point. Not worth pushing it any further than that. Beauty, that's good. And then we just work our way back out the same way. Now, if the viz was a lot worse, we would have to be so much more careful that we don't get closed in behind us. And that's something that people often forget about. They're like, oh, I'll just keep going until I don't like it, and then I'll turn around and come back out. Well, if that's the case, sometimes by the time you turn around and try and come back out, it's closed in on you.
Yeah.
So this is nice. We've seen the whole way up here. The valley's been quite wide open. We've had lots of different options. Again, it's interesting because if you just look ahead, it looks like, no, there's no way we could make it through there, right?
Yeah.
And so I always like to say, well, if somebody's willing to pay for it, you know, if your customer doesn't want to pay for it, then obviously don't go, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody's willing to pay for it, it doesn't hurt to just go a little bit and have a look, right?
Yeah.
And we saw that, and we made it, 10 miles up here or something like that, and it was always better as you got closer and closer, right? So sometimes it doesn't hurt to take a look, but know where your boundary is and say, okay, I don't feel comfortable getting beyond such and such visibility or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And because a lot of the time you get a little bit closer, you look and you go, oh wow, it's actually just as good viz as it was back there. And then you can keep on going, you can make it through an area that maybe you wouldn't have been able to make it through otherwise. And it's perfectly safe and good, so right on. Work our way back out. Another thing to mention as well is that temperature is also a factor in weather like this. So right now, we've got 8 degrees Celsius, 7-8 degrees Celsius there. And so we have no major risk of icing right now, as long as we're not climbing up any higher than this. And so that's good, but if we were down closer to the 4 degrees, 3 degrees, somewhere in that range, then we'd have much more risk of getting into that icing situation. So that makes it even less likely for you to try and push further, because you don't want to get stuck in an area where you could start icing and then struggle to fly back out of that area, right?
Yeah.
So you can see those power lines coming back again. So let's climb up a little bit higher. We got plenty of viz above at the moment, and then pick a power pole and then fly back over that. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed just a little bit of tutorial there on how to fly in some gnarly weather. That was probably some of the grosser stuff you've flown in, eh? Other than while you've been here anyways. Yeah. So yeah, it's fun. Well, I don't want to use the word fun. It's never fun to fly in bad weather, but it's interesting, and it's fun to learn sort of where the limits are and how to stay safe in that kind of weather. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, a blade slap, and we're gonna talk to you guys again tomorrow. See ya.
Yeah.